Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the KINERA Verdandi. This is the latest offering from KINERA. Once again, a tribrid composed of two Knowles BAs, two Sonian ESTs, a bone conduction driver, and a DD. In effect, it's basically got the same configuration as its bigger brother, the LOKi, and to an extent, I consider it a mini LOKi. This is in my opinion, mini LOKi in many aspects, in many respects. Anyway, this is the box of the Verdandi, the typical KINERA presentation that we've become used to it. Everything is always very classy, very nicely done, very well executed. Inside we've got some paperwork. This leaflet here explains a whole bunch of things, both in Chinese and in English, with regards to the usage of the IM, the tuning philosophy, the design, everything. Okay. Get this out of the way. This is a little certificate here, another little paperwork here. Okay, and that's it. And then we are presented with this. I'm gonna show the case first and make a small little remark with regards to the case, which is this is too small, and I think this is honestly the only part where I think KINERA failed with with the Verdandi. I mean, I would have liked to have seen a case at least like the Urd, okay, which I guess would have fit here inside of this box. Would have been a tight fit, but I guess they could have done something like that. Anyway, the case is just too small. The cable and the IMs fit inside in a very tight manner, in my opinion, and I think this is the only part that really kind of doesn't do justice. I mean, after all, we are talking about an IM that costs close to $1,200, $1,199, so $1,200, and a case would have been nice. Okay, inside the case there are some tips, the standard KINERA tips, and some foams as well. Okay, the cable, which I'll show you in a second, is a modular cable, and then we still got two more sets of tips, ASLAs and the final audios. The final audios have a tendency of enhancing the bass ever so slightly. The ASLAs give a more balanced sound, and I ultimately opted for the ASLAs. Not that I didn't like to listen to the Verdandi with the final audios, I did, but I found that the sound with the ASLAs just was more to my play, to my satisfaction, and the difference in bass was very minimal. If anything, the final audio gives a little bit more weight to the bass. This gives a little bit more clarity and speed. Okay, so that's it. So accessories wise, ample accessories, nicely. I mean, the selection, it's basically what you get with the LOKi as well, but in a more condensed fashion. And the only real remark I have to make is honestly with regards to the case. I would have liked to have seen a nicer case. The Verdandi deserves it. Okay, so let me get this out of the way here. There we go. In the back, the typical characteristics, that we usually find. They mentioned that the Verdandi's got a 14 ohm impedance and a 105 dB sensitivity. Anyway, let me just quickly show you here. So the cable, nice cable, really nice. I mean, nothing to be said. I've measured it; it measured perfectly. As for the IMs themselves, the typical work of art that KINERA usually gives us. Beautifully designed shell. You can see inside. I mean, it's really a work of art. There's not been one single IM from KINERA that I can say I didn't like the design, and that's, they're known for it. This is the LOKi by comparison in terms of the shell, and you can see that they are basically the same size. I would even say that the Verdandi is slightly thicker, but they're basically the same kind of design and shell and finish. And I mean, it's honestly a work of art. Fit for a large shell like this, at least for me, was surprisingly fine. I didn't have any issues. It does stick out from the ears a little bit, but nothing that is offensive or that I will make a negative comment about. Nothing. It just didn't isolates very nicely. Excuse me. With the ASLAs especially, I got a better isolation than with the than with the final audios. And I did momentarily also try my KB ears or 7s, but no, with the ASLAs it really is the best. Because of the issue of the case, I'm using another case I got here from this case I got from AudioSense, and I mean, it wouldn't have to be something like this. Obviously, like I mentioned, something like the KINERA Erd's case would have been sufficient, but this case just does give me the space, and it just suits this better. So what do I have here as a comparison? And this is not too I decided to go down a different road. These are three IMs that KINERA makes. The Erd, which is a tribrid, comprised of two STs, two DDs, and a single BA. Obviously, the Verdandi, which I just mentioned, is a bone conduction, two BAs, two ESTs, and one DD. And then the LOKi, one bone conduction, six BAs, four ESTs, and one DD. I believe that the DD being used in both of them is the same DD. I'm not gonna confirm that, but it seems to be the same DD. It's a 6mm on either case. And I say this because the bass that I'm getting from the Verdandi is every bit as impressive as the bass I got from the LOKi, coupled with the way that the bone conduction has been implemented, and it's quite noticeable. It gives an absolutely amazing presentation in the lower frequencies, not only in terms of quantity but quality. The quality is surreal, in my opinion, and the quantity, when you consider it's a 6mm, is just mind-blowing. Honestly, I'm not saying this is a bass head IM, no, but the quantity is more than ample, more than sufficient to give my music library more than the desired energy and engagement that I need. I mean, MMCX, for example, which is a song that it's an EDM song that's been making a little bit of a rage lately. Plenty of bass to give that song the desired, let's say, engagement. Banho de Folhas, which is another song which I usually use as well, which is also kind of a EDM song, and it's a Brazilian song. Very nice. And if I go on to things which are, let's say, more traditional, it still has plenty of bass always. The only thing that I usually don't listen to, and I've mentioned that quite a few times, is rock. But when it comes to any of the jazz that I listen to, when it comes to any of the pop, any of the normal EDM that I listen to, the Verdandi does a perfect job. Okay, so I've selected here like I was saying, the Ur, the Verdandi, and the LOKi as a stepping stone. Okay, in let's say the KINERA. I don't know how I'm going to put this in, the KINERA upgrade, if you want to call it that way. Every single one of them has got its particular little nuances in the sound. The biggest difference there are enough differences for you to differentiate between them, of course, obviously. But the biggest difference that occurs here, or the biggest jump, is between the Erd and the Verdandi and the LOKi. The jump that occurs here is quite big, and then from the Verdandi to the LOKi there is again an improvement, but not on the same level as on this initial jump here. The Urd, if you guys recall, when I reviewed it last year, I praised it very highly. It's got a nice warm tonality, nothing in the higher frequencies in terms of the upper mids and treble is harsh, is aggressive. There's no sibilance. It's just got a very nice engaging sound. Plenty of bass again from that 8mm driver that they're using here, and it's a dual diaphragm driver, so in effect they consider it a dual DD well, I'm not going to say an isobaric setup because it wouldn't be correct, but it's a dual diaphragm, dual magnetic system, dynamic driver being used here, and the bass it gives is flawless. Nothing to be said there. I would say the bass is almost on the level of these two in terms of quality, and in quantity it's on the same level. The mids, they're all about being warm, organic, non-aggressive, very, in my opinion, and with my library, very tonally correct. Just a very nice sounding IM. Its only issue with the Urd, I think, is that at $650 you have other IMs that perhaps are more, slightly more versatile, and that where ESTs, the EST implementation is slightly more noticeable. So some people might kind of, be a little bit underwhelmed by the more warm sound that the Earth has, when they consider it's using ESTs, and they perhaps are looking for a little bit more twinklies and sparklies. So I honestly thought that was its real only problem. I would have said that the Oud, if it was at just over the $500 mark, it would have made it more competitive. Would have made it more an iron. It would have been more easy to have sold. Since it is kind of, like I said, more slightly niche focused. Of course, it does make up with an absolutely exquisite build, well accessorized as well, like its two siblings. So there's really no big faults that you can put in it, but nevertheless it is $650. The LOKi, when I reviewed it as well last year, I said that it was, one of the best IEMs I had ever heard. Obviously, at $3,000, you expect nothing less than to be impressed, and I was impressed. And as you guys also know, I'm very much a believer of the law of diminishing returns, and it's difficult to justify $3,000. But if you consider it just in its accessories, there's close to $1,000, if perhaps just not over, slightly above $1,000 in accessories, as it brings in effect audio cable and so on and so forth. You could start saying, okay, well, this is effectively a $2,000 IM, which is still big money, mind you. It's still big money. Plenty of drivers to kind of justify that. An absolutely flawless build, and then a tuning which, in my opinion, is really well done. There were people that mentioned that, it's a little bit too colored in the upper frequencies, in the upper mids and treble, too intense. And what I will say about, any IM, but what I will say about the KINERAs is that they are very, very much not only tip dependent, okay, but very much source dependent. And I did all of the listening to these three with my HiFi, my Q15. And what I can say is that the Q15 with the LOKi is absolute magic. Why do I say that? Well, because of the warmer nature in terms of the sound of the Q15, it kind of gives that upper frequencies of the LOKi, which are intense, a smoother, more engaging, more lush presentation, and ultimately tames everything down. Now, having said that, when I did try it with the Yuki, when I tried it as well with the Snowy Night from a Fool, I also got the same sort of overall presentation as I do get with the FIO, just a little bit extra brighter, a little bit more intense. That, in my case, it didn't bother me, it didn't bug me, but it would maybe already or could already be deemed as borderline too much for some people. All right. So definitely the LOKi will benefit from a warmer sounding source, definitely. So something like with something using an ESS DAC configuration, if it's not being very well executed, maybe might be too much for some people. Okay. As for the Verdandi has very much the same sort of signature as the LOKi, just with slightly subdued, slightly more relaxed upper mids and treble. So in an evolution, which I'll show you just now in a second when I show you the graphs, this is the warmest, the more tamed. This is the intermediate, and this is the more intense. Let's put it that way. So perhaps the Verdandi already straight away, by virtue of what I've just said, is the one that will perhaps please more people sonically, as it very much has the same sort of bass presentation, the same sort of engagement of the bone conduction with that bass, very much the same presentation of the mids for the most part as the LOKi. The difference that occurs mainly in these two is then in how the upper mids and treble are handled, where you definitely do notice there's more intensity, more energy here. But again, let me make sure that I repeat this so that it's properly, engraved. It, in my opinion, and with my music, never gets aggressive to the point that I say, no, I've got to lower the volume. No, if anything, I actually like pushing it, because it is so well executed, all of that high energy that it's got in the upper frequencies, that it's actually quite entertaining. Okay, there's no shout there, and the Verdandi gives me very much that, but more relaxed. So I even found myself even pushing the volume more on the Verdandis in quite a few occasions than I did with the LOKi. And yes, I do like listening to them loud. Yes, I do know that it's bad for my health, and obviously I will tell you guys to, you know, take it easy when you are listening. But I mean, if the IM is capable of doing it, I think it's only natural that you will inevitably push the volume a little bit more and a little bit more, because you can feel that it's just doing its job properly and without any effort. So it's a I'm not going to say it's a V shape, but okay, fine, you can consider it a V shaped kind of signature. Although I don't, that's not the way it comes across to me. It comes across to me in the sound of the Verdandi as being very balanced, very sonically correct, very musical. Something which the other two, both the Earth and the LOKi, already are, but this one somehow, and I think it has to do with the amount of energy, obviously, that is present in the upper mids and treble range. That balance that is obtained makes it sound as the most, the smoothest of the three. Okay, this one you notice when you listen to it that it has a tendency of being on the warmer side. Okay, this one you listen to it and you straight away notice that it has a tendency of being a little bit more pending towards the upper mids and treble as the more intense, and this is kind of the middle ground, and it does it very, very well compared to the Urd. Instances where you would like a little bit more detail, a little bit more, twinklies and sparklies, the Verdandi gives me that, and it keeps up with the Urd with regards to the lower frequencies and mids perfectly, exceeding it even in terms of the overall quality. Like for example, the Truth from Moonchild, amazingly well done on the Verdandi. I mean, it's not that the Urd doesn't do it well, just this does it a little bit better. Dreams, the from Fleetwood Mac, again, flawlessly done in the Verdandi. Honestly, it's sometimes so difficult for me to say certain things, because some of you might automatically start saying, "Oh, he's shilling." No, I'm not shilling. I'm just telling you exactly what I hear, and what I hear is a very well-tuned IM performing the music that I like listening to in a flawless manner. That's it. It's as simple as that. Moon River from Jacinta, fantastic. Does it absolutely perfectly. These are some examples of songs that you listen to them on the Urd. It's very nice, but this just gives it that little extra amount of air, of soundstage, of space that complements those songs nicer. It just makes them sound more realistic, more engaging. And on that alone, I think it justifies its price over the Urd. That ability to give more stage, a better imaging, a more detailed, more details in terms of detailed retrieval, more macro and micro details. Just those things justify the price increase. And if I was to choose between the two of them, I would definitely go for the Verdandi. Definitely, I would save up a little bit more and definitely go for the Verdandi. That's my honest suggestion. As compared to opinion, sorry. As compared to the LOKi, ultimately the LOKi is a better IM. And why do I say it's better? It's better because it just offers more detailed retrieval, more twinklies and sparkly, as more soundstage, more imaging. Is it a dramatic difference? No, it's not a dramatic difference. Is it a difference that justifies the price difference? No, in my opinion, no. Which is the one that makes the most sense to buy, the Verdandi, because it offers me, I would go as far as saying 90% of what the LOKi offers me at a substantially lower price. Okay, I know these are bold words that I'm saying, and yes, fine, okay. If money is no object, then go for the LOKi. If money is no problem, LOKi. That's it. End of story. But if you are, counting your money and you can't stretch yourself that far, trust me when I say that the Verdandi will not disappoint. The Verdandi will give you much of what the LOKi is capable of giving, and perhaps even to many of you even better than the LOKi, because of the smoother nature in which the tuning has been done. It might be more satisfying, more pleasing, more versatile even. I will say that I did notice that with regards to the source being used, the Verdandi did show a little bit more versatility, and again, it has to do with the fact that it's not as energetic. So while, for example, in the LOKi, I would perhaps think twice about using something that has an ESS DAC implementation if it's not been well done. Over here, I really didn't have any issues. I mean, I used my M15, even the S9, the HiFi's S9 Martha. I used it as well momentarily with the Verdandi, and while using that dongle on the LOKi is something that I really did not enjoy. It just was too intense. With the Verdandi, it actually was very, very pleasant to listen to. Still, and I will repeat, my preference with regards to the source to be used with the Verdandi and the LOKi will be something more on the warmer side, so something like the FIO, the Q15, something like the Full, something like the Yoki, something like the M1P as well from Colorfly, or even the newer model which also uses the Cirrus Logic chips. That would be my first choice, something either using Cirrus Logic or something using the AKM chipsets. That would be my go-to source. I find that they somehow just match better the nature of the sound, both in the Verdandi and in the LOKi. The Oud is to a certain extent a little bit the opposite of what I've said, in that actually the Martha, because of its brighter presentation, or brighter, let's say, implementation of the DAC, it actually helped the Oud get a little bit more details up top, and open up the sound slightly. So while here, like I mentioned earlier, the sound in terms of its soundstage and imaging is slightly more closed down, like a small venue, and the Martha came, and the M15 as well from Q-Style came and enabled it to become a little bit larger. Okay, on here, that ability that those ESS implementations offer, I think it was excessive, was a little bit overboard. Not so much on the Verdandi, but definitely on the LOKi. So there you have it, guys. Like I said, this is not so much a comparison of which is the best, which is the worst. Every single one of them has their merits. If you are not a treble head, if you like them a more darker, more warmer presentation, the Oud is definitely the one to go for, because I mean, even the Verdandi will be, for those that don't like treble, will be considered bright. If you are looking for the ultimate in terms of detailed retrieval in all the twinklies and all the sparklies, then the LOKi for sure. The most balanced and the smoothest of the three is the Verdandi. The one that makes the most sense as well financially is the Verdandi. And there you have it, guys. I mean, I think it's basically it. If you obviously want me to compare it with other IEMs at around its price, I will do so. I've got a few that I can do that comparison with, but like I said, I didn't really want to make a comparison with the Verdandi. I wanted to position it with regards to its brothers, and let you guys understand how, where it stands, how it stands. Does it make sense? Doesn't it make sense? And I hope I was able to convey that message. All right. Anyway, I'll show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section here for the KINERA Verdandi. Let me just take away the other two graphs so that we can see the Verdandi by itself. Okay, this is my Verdandi. And okay, fine. I guess some of you might consider this a V signature. However, when you do listen to it, that's not how it comes across. First of all, let's not forget that this monstrous bass that you see here is coming from a 6mm driver. So, although we are talking about 12 dBs gain for 12, almost 13 dBs gain for the bass, is a 6mm driver, so it doesn't come across that way. The gain for the mids is about 10 dBs. Okay, fair enough. Again, I repeat, this could be considered as a V signature. but when I listen to it, that's not how that's not how it comes across to me. The bass is yes, sub bass focused, but it's got plenty of mid bass impact. This peak that you see here is the bone conduction doing its thing, and then the pin again starts a little bit earlier than usual at around 800 hertz, peaks at about 2.5k, and then starts dropping off, and then still some energy there past 10k and so on. When we take, for example, something like the LOKi, we can see that in terms of the bass and for the majority of the mids, it's basically the same thing. Even in the upper mids, it's very similar. It's then in the treble and past that we see the LOKi moving ahead. So in terms of that ultimate detailed retrieval and so on, okay, the LOKi does take the win, but it's not that it's worse or it's better. It's like I mentioned earlier. Ultimately, yes, it is a better sounding IM, but not to an extent which is as significant as you might think to start with, and in my opinion, not a significance that justifies almost 3 times the price. But as I also mentioned, if what you want to have is the best of the best and money is no object, and you want an accessories package which is about $1,000, then the LOKi is the one to go for. Okay, that's it. It's as simple as that. Now, as I also mentioned earlier, both of them are very, very, very much tip and source dependent. Okay, and then the Urd, I've normalized it at 500 hertz. I guess it might not be the ideal point to have normalized it. I could have maybe, if I have to be a little bit more, let's say, fair in my assessment of how it comes across, I would probably say the Urd comes across more along these lines. Okay, so more along like this. Definitely you can see that the Urd doesn't have the sort of mids and upper mids that the other two have. It's obvious. In terms of the bass, yes, it's got the same quantity, perhaps no, it's got more bass quantity definitely, but also it doesn't have the same mids and trebles, so obviously you're gonna perceive it as more bass quantity. The quality is not the same. The quality of the Verdandi and of the LOKi in terms of the bass is absolutely phenomenal. And then yes, of course, you do notice that like I was saying, vocals are a little bit more subdued, a little bit more relaxed, not as forward as on the other two. It doesn't have the same extension past 10k, so the treble and so on are not as prominent as on the Verdandi as on the LOKi. So the ESTs are more relaxed in the implementation, but it still sounds phenomenal. It is, I mean, for me to sit here now and say that, oh no, the Urd doesn't sound good. No, the Urd sounds good. The Urd sounds good if you like a warmer presentation, a more organic presentation. If that's perhaps the best word to choose. Definitely the Urd. And even things like this peaky at 5k, obviously the bass does help, but it's not at least I didn't notice it, and I'm pretty sensitive to this area here, so it didn't bug me. The KINERA, the LOKi, I mean, it is what it is. It's there, and the Verdandi, again, it is what you see. If there's one thing about KINERA is that their graphs are not exactly a true representation of what you hear 100%. And like I mentioned earlier, looking at this sort of bass curve, you would think, oh my god, this is going to be a monster of bass, but no, the fact that it's almost flat by 250 hertz, it's basically flat, that shows straight away that the bass has been properly tuned. So it's look guys, trust me, this is what well executed tuning is all about. It's as simple as that. Okay, now it's a question of, can we afford it? Can we not afford it? Do we like this sort of sound that it's being capable of reproduce, or you don't like? But there's no question that this is a very capable IM and that it plays very well. Okay. As always, any questions you might have, please feel free to ask me. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take care now. Bye bye.